Hello everyone and welcome back to my sunroom today. It's a chilly, cloudy day here in East Tennessee with the temperatures around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperatures are definitely warming up in my area. It's the 1st of March and we're getting longer days, almost 12 hours of sunlight every day, and spring is definitely on the way. Fertilizing is always a most frequently asked question on my channel, and for a beginner, it can be so confusing. So I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible for beginners. And it's a good thing to brush up on your knowledge about this, no matter how long you've grown orchids. If you're an experienced grower and you have your own fertilizer routine and it's working for you, then just keep that routine up. I'll try to give you some useful information, and I hope I say something that helps you. Sometimes it's that one piece of information that makes a difference in your growing routine for the better of your orchids. The most important thing about fertilizing and caring for orchids is keeping an eye on them. I look at all my orchids every day. I love watching them grow. So this is a part of the process that's so fulfilling for me. Look at what your orchid needs or doesn't need at each stage of their growth. So all of my orchids are blooming now, and I still have quite a few buds that are going to bloom. The spikes have finished growing and maturing. The weather has been cold, rainy, snowy for the past few weeks. There are no new leaves or canes, no pseudobulbs that are growing right now. So I don't need as much fertilizer as when their spikes are growing. So I'm just giving them CalMag and seaweed extract and less of the Better Grow Orchid Plus. If it's a cold, snowy day, when it's a day to fertilize with the Better Grow, I skip it. If it's sunny, I give them a small amount, around 1/4 teaspoon of the Better Grow. Now is their resting period, so they don't need as much fertilizer. So keep in mind, at the first sign of new root tips, a new leaf, or new growth, that marks the end of the rest period, and I start fertilizing it again, full strength, at 1 teaspoon of Better Grow Orchid Plus. So for me, this rest period isn't very long, maybe a month or two, because of the amount of light in my sunroom. As soon as the sun hits this room, it warms it up between 70 to 80 degrees, and that signals them to start growing again. Also, the longer days in the spring is an indicator for them to start growing. So you have to gauge in your environment when your orchid is in active growth, and start fertilizing them again when your orchids start actively growing. In the spring, when you see new root tips, a new leaf, a new cane, or a new pseudobulb starting, then you know it's time to increase your fertilizer recipe again. So here's my late winter fertilizer recipe. Per gallon of warm reverse osmosis water, that's 3.8 liters, I add 20 to 25 drops of CalMag. That's at 55 to 60 parts per million. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that here in just a minute. 1/4 teaspoon Better Grow Orchid Plus, 30 drops of the Growmore seaweed extract, and it goes in that order in the water. I add the CalMag first, then the Better Grow, and then the seaweed extract. And I use that Better Grow at every other watering, and then I use the CalMag and the seaweed extract at every watering. And here's what I use when they're actively growing. And the only difference in this recipe for active growth is right here, the 1 teaspoon of the Better Grow Orchid Plus. And just a note about the CalMag, this is more drops than what my previous fertilizing video said that I use. If you have a TDS meter, then you're going to use this at 55 to 60 parts per million. My TDS meter needed a new battery, and it was giving me false high readings. So I learned to change my battery in my TDS meter every 6 months. My meter doesn't let me know when the battery is low. It just gives me incorrect readings. So I'll be changing out the battery really often, and that's just a heads up to those of us who use those TDS meters. And now let's go over some fertilizing tips. These are tips about fertilizing that I learned from my own experience. The biggest error I made about fertilizing as a beginner was I was afraid to do it. My best tip for you is to use all 3 products, the CalMag, the Better Grow, and the Grow More seaweed extract together. And if you don't know what those look like, I'm going to put a link to a video in the description box below that shows you exactly what the packaging of those looks like. I don't recommend you skipping the CalMag and the seaweed extract because they all work really well together. If you don't use the supplements with the Better Grow, you're not going to get the results that you want. Also, don't give your orchids a larger fertilizer dosage than what is recommended on the package. I did that once as a beginner and I burned up the orchid. So a good rule for a green thumb is never use more fertilizer than the package recommends. A question I'm asked really often is, how long does your fertilizer mixture last once it's mixed up? I mix up the fertilizer and I use it within a day or 2. I've noticed that if I keep it longer than that, the mixture starts turning alkaline. You don't want that to happen. Fertilizer mixtures are absorbed in acidic conditions, not in alkaline conditions. I promised to keep it simple, and I hope I did. And I hope that this video helped you all. You all are truly my international orchid family, and I appreciate all of you more than you know. I have enjoyed reading your comments and learning from you where you all are from. Please continue to do that. And thanks so much for your friendship and your kind words. Reading through my comment section is just such a blessing to me. And I have a question for all of my subscribers. Now that your orchids are all blooming, which one of your orchids do you most look forward to it reblooming and you miss it when it's not blooming? It has that effect on you and it has that effect on others. I love all of mine, you all know that, but when my Dendrobium Wilson is blooming, something happens back here in my sunroom. And everyone who sees it stops what they're doing and they come and look at it. It makes my day every time I see it. It's named after a man who cares for a garden conservatory, and he loves to share his enthusiasm for plants with others. So I named this in honor of him. Before I end this video, I would love to say the blessing over you and your families and your orchids. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give to you his shalom peace. You all make it a great day, and we'll see you next time.